Thank you so much. Thank you, Madison. It's true, my father went to school here. His father went to school here, and I have a brother and sister that went to school here. And yeah, they were very surprised that Notre Dame would want me to come and read these crazy poems. Oh no. Anyway, I'm really thrilled. And I owe so much to Johannes and Joelle. You're so lucky to have them here. They really are very, very revolutionary, radical people in our world as artists and just as everything. So thank you both for everything that you do. I'm going to read some new poems, and then I'll read some from the first flag. And somebody told me the bookstore doesn't like it if you use the F word, but are you guys going to be okay?
We're okay with it.
Because it's hard to find many poems without it. So, you remember the New Age, the fiscal cliff? Remember the fiscal cliff? That was like hundreds of years ago. I don't even exactly know what it was anymore, but I wrote this poem during that time, and it's called New Age Cliff. Every New Year, rainbow cunt tree, rainbow cunt tree. Every New Year sure sounds good to me, with the side of drugs, and it does, and it morphs me, it's head rush, and the morgue. I need so much fuck. I needed ice to feel younger, but the problems multiplied, and all the icebergs are apparently melting. The burbs are pipe dreams, rainbow country, only a highway away. Starbucks and lip gloss embody the meaning of life, and meanwhile, I'd like to welcome you to the 14th Bach tune. There's still one full Bach tune to decide what to do with our pick tune. Maybe Pasolini for the New Age. Maybe Rome for the next marathon so I can finally wear the right shoes. Because the problems are many. Foot and neck problems. Fisticuff problems. Dialing for dollars problems. Needing a buttocks massage problem and constantly nauseous. The Queen of Pentacles is younger than me. True or false? I've got loads of fashionable body, but when I claim to pray, I might be showing off. I might just be on drugs, waiting for things to get better. On bright moonlit nights, I'm as crepuscular as the next guy, just as ardent. I hardly have any secrets. I'm not a feminist, for the record, although I heard a rumor that my anger is intense. I suppose that's because I need an imaginary standard distance between the Pope and my dad. Or I need virtue, living in the woods, soaping with grapefruit, growing out my teeth, letting myself go. Tracksuits are awesome for that kind of thing. I sold mine to the gold guys. I'm surrounded by galactic bounty hunters, could use more dragonry than I was allotted. Only my brothers had that. And my dad, when he wore a towel half-mast after a shower, long, long before he ever died, which he's now done. I believe it's quite an accomplishment. Okay, I'm going to read a couple from the first flag. I feel like I keep... Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
So there's a long poem in the middle of the book. It's called Comma, and it's made up of 4 sections, and each section is made up of several little poemlets, I guess. And the poems are written, they're transposed over these old anatomical drawings, mostly of interiors of bodies, especially of like the bodies of pregnant women, but also of some animals and babies and stuff. So I'm just going to read a few from this one. This is one from part 2 of Comma. It's called Born in Prison. While everyone else goes off to war, I'm confined to a ward. Ursula, repulsive nurse, locks me in. I'm a comma on the cot. Some soul scraps catch air from the vent and abandon me like strands of hair. It's January and there's snow. The lounge TV features our patriarch lauding noble attacks on small foreign targets. He places his hand on his heart as instructed by God. On the ward below, my daughters in nightgowns circle the citadel. They swallow their meds. Outside the ER, a school bus catches ice. then plows through the hospital windows. Nurses toss fire back and forth. I pretend to regurgitate their pills, but I like drugs. If only I had a fever. My daughters engrave the names of future children on their inner arms with slivers of bulletproof glass. They drizzle the red syrup, circling, burning foxholes into the floor with their foot pads. Those dear girls source their own arteries for jumping rope and chant.
Say, oh enemy, come disappear with me, and bring your pharmacy. Climb up my torture tree, slide down my cutter blade, into my Sericel, and fade away we will, forevermore. Shut the door.
Your father runs this hospital,
said the chaplain, disrobing. Okay. Thank you. I like to do that. So there's a lot of different voices in the book, and sometimes just within the poems themselves, and sometimes I like to have other people in the audience say the voices, if they want. Okay, so I'm going to read a poem that actually Paul quoted on Facebook today. It's called Transitional Object. You guys all taken psychology? You know what a transitional object is? So transitional object, it's part of this group of psychoanalysis called object relations, where you have like, between weaning from your mother, you have like a transitional thing. Could be a blankie, could be a teddy bear. I had a blankie like till I was 12, basically. I needed a long transition. So this is transitional object. It has an epigraph from Paracelsus. The glass or vessel is called mother. I watched myself being dragged across a bleak terrain inside a cage made of bones. The bones must have belonged to a very large animal, possibly human, possibly even my mother. The man dragging me kept apologizing for locking me up and for dragging me across this treeless corpse of a landscape. It was as if he could not stop dragging me around. He simply could not let me out of the cage made of the bones of my mother until I had accepted his apology for hauling me everywhere inside the cage made of the bones of my mother. I realized I was expected to say something. I wasn't sure what. Maybe, "It's okay," or "You were right to put me inside this cage made of the bones of my mother. I belong here." But I also knew that we both know, but I didn't really believe it. And so I'd only come off as unreliable, thus even more monstrous, by saying what he seemed really to want me to say, in the sense, for example, of, "I just adore being your nurse," or "Thanks a bunch," or "You're going to go to heaven, honey." He kept apologizing, and I was aware of myself struggling to articulate the general sentiment I hoped I'd correctly guessed I was expected to convey, maybe more along the lines of, "I'm sorry you feel so sorry for putting me in this cage made of the bones of my mother." And then it dawned on me that I didn't have a voice box. In the area where sound might form, I sensed mere air. I wondered if the cage made of the bones of my mother correlated to my voice box, like a flag. And then I wondered if thought for the voiceless could amass like a ghost talk, and if he'd hear me thinking how pathetic I found his relentless apologizing. I began to focus on changing my thoughts, if only to project onto my face how sorry I was, that he felt so sorry for having surgically removed my voice box, and for locking me up inside a cage made of the bones of my mother, and for carting me across this abysmal plain covered with endless anthills and crabgrass, and that I was sorry for my confounding, inappropriate nakedness, which unavoidably obliged him to indulge his urge upon the roof of my mother's sharp bones. I was sorry that he couldn't help it, and sorry that he felt so sorry for screaming and spitting. For Christ's sake, didn't I understand how much he loved me, loved this cage made especially for me out of the bones of my very own mother? And I thought, okay. I thought this with great concentration. I thought it so forcefully that I think I actually began to think it. And he said, "I'm sorry that I have to spend my life yoked to that cage made of mother's bones. All I ever wanted was a nurse, a natural nanny, Who'd aspire to drag a hag around in a cage made of her very own bones? And I thought, oh. And I thought, oh yeah. And I started to change within ourself. I started to project into the space of my mother a thought, my bones. And I changed my thoughts about mother and cage and meadow and then daughter and I am and he's not. And I imagined a yes that birthed out a star pour, each bone recomposing as skyward colostrum. I thought body and dirt, bloodstream and bilirubin. I thought ovum, menstruum, ectoplasm, miasma, utopian tubes. And I thought larva, chakra, animal, embryo, placenta, the migrating clouds, the treetops. How's it going?
Wow.
Oh, geez. One time I did a writing workshop in a women's prison, and I read that poem, and there were a bunch of male guards, you know, kind of watching over, and they were not happy at all about that. Kind of scared me. Thank you. So okay, I'm going to read a poem from the 4th section of the book, which is called The Tower. And the tower is, you know, an archetype for catastrophe, when, like, you know, when Rome fell. It's like the tower, tarot card, the tower archetype. But I actually fell in love with a real tower. I went to this artist residency where there was this beautiful tower, and you walk up these winding stairs. There's 77 stairs, and at the top of the tower there's this beautiful room. It's like this round, beautiful room with wood shelves, and the ceiling is painted with stars and everything. And then it's also a water tower, so it goes up and it also goes down. And it really taught me a lot about having compassion for the patriarchy, believe it or not. But, you know, when you're up in a tower, like, you're alone up there looking down on these little things, and it's a little lonely, possibly. So this is called Essay on My Tower, and it has 2 epigraphs. The first is from Julia Kristeva. The abject has only one quality of the object, that of being opposed by it. And the second is from Maurice Sendak, who has the same birthday as me. And it's from his book, In the Night Kitchen. I'm in the milk, and the milk's in me. My small awakening pearls in a bell amid the wind-blown bird song and bats touristing the tower where I nest in late grandmother's hair strands and rose petals. I often press myself against the column, all the water, my body's spectral crashing waves, underskirt, or the more bird-like comportment of zero trauma ever. Or is this a well? I conjure extra instinct in the higher air. Animals transit the rotunda, moths venture here to whiten and die. This must be real then. I can't stop touching the shape. At the head of the cylinder, seated at the right hand of the head of the table. My small glass thought divined from the bottom of my nakedness. If I ever could touch and feel it, I'm in the cock and the cock's in me, as if my inner violet finally opened with Mars as its ruling planet, as a tower about war, between structure and lightning, the God and the details of pure air, and the bruise I believed to be true. Bruise-colored tissue eclipsing the solar heart of me, the core of this traumatic need for infinite contact with pure surgeon tower dazzle. My tower spectacular, me straddling bear claw and speculation, cave goddess and risky behavior, as if my inner mouth can't stop rooting for the primal colossus, the pure and vigorous heart of my tower of towering father at the bottom of every well. Thank you. It's so weird. Poetry readings are weird. Like, it's like, did I clap? Or is she gonna like go home and feel so sorry that I didn't clap? You can do it whatever you want. Thank you very much. They told me there was going to be 15 people here. There's like 100 people here. Okay, I'm going to read some more, just a couple of new poems now. And then if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Oh, I might read one more poem from this book. Okay, so these are all pretty new, like in the last couple months. This one is called Postnuptial Fabulous. I am not a spy. Why? Well, because I am a wife. And wives don't spy. Do wives lie? Some wives lie, and all wives die. Do wolves cry? Well, I am not a boy, I am a wife. Some wives hear wolf, cried and cried and cried. I am someone's mother, and so on. I don't think I would rather be a wolf. Do wolves have wives? Once a wife, always a wife? Well, I am not a widow. I've never seen a wolf eat a boy. The days go by and they have wolf in them. I drink. The wolves and I spy someone swimming for his life, crying, wolf, wolf, wolf. Why is a wolf a cry? Some boys die crying wolf, having never learned the word for mother. The boy is going on and all that's left is just predator. Pretty soon it's a whole ocean of tails, not wolves. Then another mother. There should be so much more spying. I am a real wife, then another wife. I might rather be a spy. There should be so much more why. Okay, this is a poem that's called The Number of Heaven and Earth, and it's a poem written after this poet John Colburn, who also has a poem called The Number of Heaven and Earth, as do so many people probably. Everyone thinks they know what the number of, well, there are many theories about what the actual number of heaven and earth might be, but I don't know. The Number of Heaven and Earth is an American avant-garde film made by Harry Smith in 1957. Is crisis reconceived as diagnosis in a world of visible things? Is the number of open heart surgery? Produces 2, produces 3, produces the myriad, 666, Satan, 666, Jesus, the number of keys to the castle, the number of master keys, caskets, jewels, stowaways, re-sentiments, the number S for essay or sexy, petite objects A, X, Y, and closet, closer calls with ultra-Baroque shamanic typos, divvying up the official apotheosis of Midwestern poetry. The King of Wands could be a literal person unless king is a substitute for number or the powers of horror. Bluebeard is numerously famous and rich in 27 shades of blue and frankly his abacus of perfect teeth, perfect steel. The number of rhymes that orbit human consciousness blindfolded, the number of holes, the number 420 and the number NSA, the number of real men who don't hurt women. How many Rasas, how many Waltons? Heaven, 1, produced water. The earth, 2, produced fire. Heaven and earth produced numbers, and 10 is the end of the numbers. How many killed? How many ran? In spoken English, the numbers 13 and 30 are often confused. On any given day, the number for paradise is the same number as the number for Walgreens. The number of doctorates we are going to need to keep replenishing our optical illusions, the number of centaurs it takes to push the Talos away, the number of men who mistake the moon for the emperor, the number of besieged geographical locations, the number of times you shoplifted a donut from Jewel but paid for your sandwich. 666 monster, 666 ancestor. Traditionally, there are 13 witches in a coven. 19 is the final number of heaven and earth. How many roads must a man walk down? A million tiny stars or corresponding corpses. The number of seeds sorted out, the number of times, wives, geodes, goats, babies, 666 Mary, 666 Medusa, number of calories, milligrams, sun salutations, record highs, record lows, Dow Jones Industrial, motherfuckers, eating how many pieces of blue oyster cult, clot, cute little monkeys jumping on the bed. How many wolves will a woodchuck cry? 666, husband, 666, wife. Sex, slaughter, sows, galactic, addictions, goddess incinerators, pinups, pickups, poets. The stars we can see, the stars we cannot. I wrote a guzzle. You guys know Guzzle? I think that I used to always call it a Guzzle because Guzzle, it sounds like gazelle. You know, it sounds pretty, and Guzzle, it's like guzzle. So, but that's just the difference. So it's a guzzle, and it's a traditional Arabic poetic form, and it usually has rhyming couplets or semi-rhyming couplets and a refrain. And I think that the subject matter is typically about like the bittersweetness of lost love, and the poet often names herself in the poem in the last stanza. And also, am I correct in that ships are usually named after women, like boats? Yeah. Okay, good. So this is a guzzle. My shipwreck is named Emily, Carmen, Jenny, Asian woman, Sasha, Nina, North Minneapolis, Raven, Brandy, skinny one, Tiffany, Paige, blonde on couch, Cassie, body rub woman trick, a guzzle. And it has an epigraph from Raul Zurita. Only through radical vulnerability can the urgency of love arise.
Yes.
I've been sailing along in the sunshiny sun. The waves had secrets that marvelously crashed and cleft my purple helm. The boat was a Swiss family robin's nest. My grandparents pitched like a pie at a hare's shroud when Miss Padre sailed away in the moon honeymoon. The greatest story ever told at bedtime watered every folded chromosome. Salud, sayonara, sail away, sweet sister, born free as the wind chime. That story kept going. Then everybody got married. The end. I.e., my puberty was replaced by Los Abuelos de mis niños. Then dying crashed the pithy parentage like a private ghost school for dummies. Whatever secret death held, we waved away, for wishes were horses, and whorehouses had secrets we never dared to dwell on. Whatever death my father kept secret from his intrinsic monsterness, we waved, for all men secretly sailed in the sunshiny sun. All men bravely died in secret dark embraces in the movies and school, and increasingly on TV. Our teachers said our fathers never die. Isn't that the point of secret societies and sects in church? Why not be a mystic sexton, a flailing dolphin, a secretion on a towel on a bed in Burnsville? A little death never hurt as much as a little pregnant. Which, forensic fails aside, a cleft hoof most deaf means monster, every telltale heart dish. Seriously, crush on, rave on, write one, bite down baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna go to her grave, wishing to live deliberately, in lieu of the facts of life. Hey, foxy lady. Hey, Bonnie Bell lip smackers. Hey, hey, hey. Okay, do you guys have the time for one more kind of short?
Yeah.
So the title of my book, The First Flag, it comes from a quote by kind of a real outlier in psychoanalysis. I think most psychoanalysts think he was totally crazy. But his books are all available free online. His name was Lloyd deMause. And I found this quote from his book, The Fetal Origins of History. In fact, the placenta of the pharaoh was placed on a pole and carried into battle. This is history's first flag. So as Johannes was saying, I'm a doula, and I help women through their pregnancy and labor and childbirth. And another thing I am is a placenta encapsulator. So that means that I make medicine with placenta. And the way I make it is that I actually make it into capsules eventually. It takes a long time. And it's really hard work, but it's amazingly magical, wonderful work. And it changed me, and it was really incredible. So actually here is some pictures of placentas. You can't see them very well, but this is a placenta that I worked with. The very first one So this is the last poem in the book, and I thought I should read a placenta poem. It's called Postnatural. I'm holding a bleeding placenta. It clot ruptures in the sink, dangling its white curl, and into a colander, and porcelain droplets, and leaking through my fingers a moon waters down, and bears her vessels, unpeels. I unpeel her aquatic veil, puddles and tissue slovenly, and reveals reptilian top skin, spongy meat, and emits a surreal film upon the atmosphere as olfactory estate, woomy distillation. And the moon's a red surround and mediates as numinous coralline, and continually negotiates, and is equally our common grave. And inside herself, it's just the meat of the blood-red moon. And I cook the moon, and tear off her gristle, poke her with a bleed stick, grate, and balking at the moon, the blood-soaked, beleaguered moon cake, sliced up like leather on a baking sheet, moon clots snailing down the white sides. And it's like a membrane, an ecosystem. And the moon is cut up in cooking, but that's not the real moon. Skin stench before the moon swelling with the steam of the ghost moon. Lumen, hymen, island, lokia, cosmos. Thank you very much.